So I've been going through a bunch of different methods on how to much more easily and quickly farm up delves of any tiers, and to cap off all of these delve videos, I'm going to go over a farm using any of these methods you want to use to be able to farm pretty decent gear for all of your characters, because all of this gear you're going to be farming is going to be WoW gear. And depending on how geared your main is, you could also be getting some upgrades for that as well, because we're still pretty early on into season 2. Now, the main gear we're going to be farming is going to be all WoW gear, like I mentioned, and it's going to be on the veteran track. That means it starts at 623 item level and goes up to 645 item level when fully upgraded. So it goes from LFR item level all the way up to that normal item level. So normal item level raid gear is pretty good, especially if you're farming up a bunch of this for multiple different alts to be able to get them a bit more gear to go into raiding or go into Mythic Plus. And on top of just the item levels, you can also get some very strong gear from delves this season. In a similar way to delves of season 1, there are some of the best trinkets in the game right now from these delves. You can also still get pretty much all of the delve items from season 1 as well, which also includes some items that are still top tier right now, but those seem to be quite a bit more rare than the new season 2 items. And the main thing you're going to be doing for this farm is you're going to be finding a very fast delve to farm for that day, because remember, they switch on a daily basis, so they could be a completely different objective in the next day. But you're going to be finding a fast delve for that day, and you're going to be farming it on tier 7. Now, farming it on tier 7 is the cutoff for when you start to get veteran track WoW gear. If you do it on tier 6, you won't get veteran track gear. You'll get the track below that. So make sure you're on tier 7. And some of the best delves to do this on is the new delve of Excavation Site 9. All of the different versions of this delve I've done so far have been pretty quick. And then you also have something like Nightfall Sanctum that also seems to be pretty quick in most of its different versions. So you're really just going to want to be finding the delve that you can do as quickly as possible. I've been farming a lot of Excavation Site 9. On a Blood Death Night, I've been able to farm up this delve in around 4 minutes on average on tier 7. And there's two main things you're going to want to be focusing on when running these delves. The first one is to kill all of the nemesis groups, which are the gold piles you'll find, and they'll spawn elite enemies out of them. Every one of those you kill buffs up the nemesis chest at the end of the run, which is a new third chest at the end of every one of the delve runs. The more of these groups you kill, the better loot you'll get out of that chest. Now, when doing tier 7 delves, there's only going to be 2 groups. So you only have to look for those 2 groups and you'll get the chest as big as it can possibly get. The second thing you're going to want to be focusing on is just completing that delve as quickly as possible. And if you're going to want to be farming this a lot, start to figure out a better and more efficient route, because a lot of these delves, you can massively increase the efficiency once you learn where all the enemies are, once you learn the objectives and how to do them more quickly, and then you can optimize killing as least amount of enemies as you possibly can. Now, when you've completed a normal tier 7 delve, you'll find 3 chests at the end. The 2 normal chests that you get for completing any delve on any difficulty, and then the nemesis chest as well. Now, from what I've found, you can get WoW gear out of all 3 of these chests. And it also seems that based upon me having gotten WoW gear from all 3 of these chests, that you should be able to get 3 pieces of WoW gear if you get really lucky. I've gotten 2 pieces in one run. You still should have the possibility of getting 3 pieces of veteran track WoW gear from a singular run. Now, you will also randomly be getting Explorer gear that is soulbound to your character. That has nothing to do with the WoW gear you're actually getting, but you'll also randomly be getting this Explorer gear, which is going to be super good, especially if you're on a character that can easily farm this tier of delves. But if that character isn't super geared and you're still doing this farm, you may find some upgrades. And also keep in mind, these Explorer items you'll randomly be getting can also just be those super strong trinkets. So it may even be worth to have a much lower item level of one of these really good trinkets than getting a much higher item level of a much worse trinket. You'd probably have to sim that or look up some guides to actually see how good they are depending on their item level, but just keep that in mind. You'll also be getting this other random soulbound gear. Now, that's pretty much all you need to know if you're just doing this for gear, but you can also make a decent amount of gold doing this as well. Just looting all the enemies you defeat, getting their random gold, getting their random grays, and they also seem to drop a decent amount of BOE greens and and BOE blues that can sell for a few thousand gold a piece sometimes. But by looting the chests at the end, you can also get some of the more rare crafting materials that are now all of a similar price. Because if you remember early on in the War Within, the profane tinder boxes, which is a resource used for pretty much all of the enchants, were kind of rare and super expensive. But then they added a vendor where you could trade these other rare items for profane tinder boxes, and you could trade those items back and forth at this vendor. So most of these rare items are around a similar price on the auction house, and you can get all of them. That includes Gloom Fathom Hide, which I think are around 450 gold. You can get profane tinder boxes, which even though you can trade them back and forth, they still seem to be a bit more expensive at around 1500 gold. You can get Ringing Deep's ingots, which are around 450 gold. You can get Vial of Kaheti oils, which are around 450 gold, and you can get Viridian Charm Cap, which are also around 450 gold. So 4 of the items are all around the same price of 450. The profane tinder boxes are still around 1500 gold, and you'll randomly just get a chunk of these from looting the chests at the end. In fact, it seems you get a majority of these from the Nemesis chest at the end as well. And adding all of this up, adding the other random resources Bran will gather for you, you can make quite a bit of gold doing this for, say, an hour. I wouldn't be surprised if you can make tens of thousands of gold in farming one of these delves for an hour or even less. In fact, I think I made over 15,000 gold doing this for like 15 or 20 minutes before. So this can also be a good way to make a bit of additional gold on top of gearing up. But that's pretty much all you need to do this delve farm to be able to get a ton of pretty good WoW gear. And like I mentioned, this can be used for your main if your main isn't super geared yet, and it's incredibly strong for gearing up any of your alts. And this can easily bump them up to a good enough item level to jump into raids or jump into Mythic Plus. But that's all I want to go over. So thanks for watching.